What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the most comprehensive weekly NFL player review series on the internet, my Studs and Duds series. Today we'll be reviewing the studs and duds from NFL Week 1, whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. While we do that, I'll be going through this week's update for my own custom Madden roster. So while these ratings do come from a video game, and believe me, I realize that, these are my own ratings, and it is an effective way to show you my own perception of these players. So buckle up, we're going to go game by game, but I do ask you take a second here to hit that like button down below to really help support this channel, and share this video with your friends who you think would also enjoy the series. So here we go, starting with the star of the week, and it is none other than running back Josh Jacobs for the Las Vegas Raiders, who absolutely went off this week, was a major reason as a running back that his team was able to beat the Carolina Panthers. And Josh Jacobs here is actually going to go up 4 overall from an 87 to a 91. Call it a week 1 overreaction, but I really liked Jacobs coming out of college, as did most people. You could really just, he's one of those guys that you could just tell, even though he didn't have all of the production, he didn't get all the snaps at a talented backfield at Alabama. He passed that eye test, right? And he's only continued to pass the eye test. He had an amazing season cut short due to injury last year, was putting up Rookie of the Year numbers at running back, and comes out the gate strong, goes really, punch for punch with Christian McCaffrey, who is RB1. I think there's a decent chance that we will look back on this season, more than a decent chance, honestly, at this week 1 matchup, and say, wow, that was a battle between the two best running backs in the NFL in a year where the running back, the age of the running back is kind of coming back to life a little bit here. So awesome game from Josh Jacobs, just making guys miss, showing that receiving ability out of the backfield, which is the biggest way a running back can help contribute to wins, is not just be effective on the ground, but contribute as a receiver as well. And good for Josh Jacobs, I think, climbing to the top of the running back charts here. And then the dud of the week, Rob Gronkowski. Can you guys believe that EA had him as a 95 overall after coming out of retirement? Like, gross. Could be an overreaction of week 1, but I'm taking a guilty until proven innocent approach here on Rob Gronkowski. He looked slow. He was not the starter for Tampa Bay. It was O.J. Howard. He was barely targeted. When he did get the ball, he was physical at the tackle point, but that's really all you can say. Even as a blocker, he was not what he used to be. So Rob Gronkowski, still a respectable 79 here, but my goodness, 95 overall from EA. Yikes on that one. I'm going to put Gronk towards that sort of middling tier of starting caliber tight ends. I don't even think he is that. He could very well continue to go down. Just looked like your typical, Cameron Brate on this Bucs team, going down from an 82 to a 79, and gonna collect the dud of the week, showing that he, at this point in time, is much more of a name than what he used to be. So let's get into the games here, starting with the Thursday night opener, the Texans at the Chiefs. So for the Houston Texans, David Johnson. Obviously, that trade is just not going to be worth it for the Texans. DeAndre Hopkins looked great for the Cardinals himself, but all of those things aside, David Johnson looked a lot like the old DJ that we saw years ago for the Arizona Cardinals, who was, at a time, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Showed that burst between the tackles, making guys miss, kicking the ball to the outside, and really creating explosive runs for this Texans run game. Wasn't enough once they had to kind of abandon the run here against the Chiefs, but looking good in his start. David Johnson getting revitalized here in kind of a screw the world type of season after he was, by many people, myself included, referred to as basically a bag of Doritos getting traded for DeAndre Hopkins. He's trying to show that he's actually a pretty freaking good football player, even if that value is never going to hold up. Then we have Jordan Akins going up +1. Showed some explosiveness after the catch, getting downfield as the hopefully lead tight end for this offense that I think they would like to shade away from Darren Fells at some point here. Akins kind of getting in that rotation, but doing the best with his targets and really showing some explosiveness and run after the catch ability as well. And then it's going to be Jacob Martin, the final riser here for the Houston Texans. He was actually a part of the Jadeveon Clowney trade. Did get some decent playing time last year, but one of his most productive pass rushing games this week. Basically ran right around Mitchell Schwartz for a really impressive pass rushing rep and a decent game all around. So he's going to go up +1, 68 to a 69, trying to get some more playing time, maybe even edge out a pun intended there, unintended, full starting edge time there for the Houston Texans. And then just some other notes here. Justin Reed, not going to go up. He did have a great game. I love me some Justin Reed. He's already rated appropriately, but wanted to note that. John Reed gets 32 snaps, a late-round rookie out of Penn State. Really quick guy, getting some snaps in the slot there. Wasn't particularly impressive, was against the Chiefs, but of note there because I did not think he would get into this secondary rotation so soon. Then we had Zach Cunningham. Got a big contract several weeks ago and did not pay it back in this game. Missing tackles, getting lost in coverage. Not a good game. I do like Zach Cunningham. I think he can bounce back, but not a good opener for Zach Cunningham at linebacker there. And then Whitney Merciless on the edge. A really quiet week for the veterans. So definitely going to have him on our radar. A potential faller next week if he can't step it up. Then we have for the Kansas City Chiefs, lots of movement here. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a star of the week candidate here. Really to nobody's surprise, came out and was just kicking ass from the get-go. I don't even know the number, but he was just consistently making the first man miss, showed patience in the run game. Strangely enough, didn't get involved in the receiving game, something he was so good at LSU, could only increase his ceiling moving forward. So liked what I saw from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's not mess around here, and let's move him up into that respectable 80 overall range. Then we got Sammy Watkins, really stepped up. Strangely enough, the Chiefs went to him as the guy that could get open against man coverage. Really running good routes this week, looked sharp and explosive, and man, you get a healthy Sammy Watkins running good routes, getting open, making plays after the catch. You get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in here, and then you get Kaleki Asemele basically stepping in and potentially upgrading what was set to be this offense's biggest loss this offseason, which was the opt-out of their star guard, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who elected to go help out as a doctor for COVID. But they bring in Kaleki Asemele after that news, who was a former all-pro type of player for the Interdivision Raiders. And the Chiefs tried to kick the tires here, and it worked immediately. He was mauling dudes in the run game, was posting up as a pass protector. Almost a predictable outcome here. I think I even mentioned this in my deep dive, that this just was a perfect signing. A guy that went to the Jets after his time in Oakland and just didn't really want to try. It seemed like had a falling out with whatever was going on there with the Jets. Comes in here to Kansas City with a much better culture and basically just resumes where he left off back in his prime. So, man, what a pickup. He's going to go up 3 overall. We don't want to overreact to 1 week, but he certainly has the looks of a player that is going to quickly climb back up into that 80 range where he last was. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Then we have some guys on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of young, unknown talent stepping up this week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Something a team like the Chiefs are going to need, because they have really invested in the top of this roster, and the way that you sustain success, other than having a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, is going to be having guys like this step up that you did not have to invest much in. So we have some run defenders here. Tershawn Wharton, a complete under-the-radar interior defensive lineman, a little undersized athletic profile with some explosiveness, stepped up in run defense this week. He's going to go up 2 overall. Mike Dana as well, I believe a 5th or 6th round pick out of Michigan, maybe even a transfer from Central Michigan, something along those lines, but basically a no-name here. He is going to go up 2 from 64 to 66, was good in that rotational run defending role, and then some pass rushing help. Frank Clark had a great game, and they need him to play like this because they are paying him top dollar in the edge market, and he had 5 pressures in this game, just blazed by right tackle Titus Howard for an easy sack. Really making some splash plays here. His PFF grade didn't reflect it. That's kind of what Frank Clark does. He makes splash plays. He doesn't show up every down, but he does show up on those critical downs, which is really important for a pass rusher. So a big week for Frank Clark honestly would have been, not including playoffs, because he was solid in the playoffs last year, which speaks to his ability to step up in those big moments. But regular season, this game right here would have been his best game as a Chief, in my opinion. Then we have Tano Passanio, who quietly put up like 6 sacks, 40 pressures last year, a weird body profile, 6'7", 6'8", 285 pounds or so, lengthy, weird, oversized edge player with some explosiveness. And he is creeping up. He's refining that technique. He's making an impact in run defense as well, making himself well known in that rotation with no Alex Okafor this week, really stepping up. So they could really benefit from him emerging as a starting caliber player opposite of Frank Clark. And then, of course, L'Jarius Sneed, who stole the show. I liked L'Jarius Sneed, for those of you that were following me during my draft talk. But that was as a free safety coming out of La Tech. A lot of speed, just kind of the athlete that you want to gamble on. A 4'3", sub 4'3" type of 40 kind of player. And it showed day one against Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, these receivers for the Texans with a lot of speed and deep potential. L'Jarius Sneed was there for the test and was all over these guys. So an incredibly impressive debut for a converted small school safety to step in and be basically running press man coverage in his rookie debut in a COVID season. Really impressed by L'Jarius Sneed. We'll see if he can follow it up in the ensuing week. So there is your recap of the first game there. Let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about the shootout between the Seahawks and Atlanta Falcons, starting with Chris Carson, who simply put continues to impress me with his physicality, but contributing in the receiving game, something he hasn't always done at a high level, showing some more shiftiness, ability to make guys miss, and create those explosive plays out of the backfield. He's not just a bruiser in a contract year here for Chris Carson, trying to make a statement. Then we got Damian Lewis, the rookie right guard out of LSU. I really liked Damian Lewis. I was uncertain on if he would be ready to start out the gate as a rookie. And here is Damian Lewis doing exactly what he did at LSU, and that is being a complete mauler in the run game, but struggling in pass protection. Did struggle with a really good interior rusher in Grady Jarrett, but struggled a lot nonetheless. So keeping an eye on this situation here. Damian Lewis, if Seattle wants to open up this passing game and shift towards being more of this pass-oriented offense, I'm not sure Damian Lewis is the right fit, but if they want to be this ground and pound mauling offense, then Damian Lewis is the right fit. So he's very good getting off the ball, using that low leverage he has at, he's either 6'2 or 6'3, about 330 pounds. Really good athlete with great strength, can blow you off the ball, but when he has to go backwards, that's when his footwork and his balance and his technique really can bite him a lot of the time. So we'll see how this plays out. He is going to go up because he just showed that he can continue to run block at a high level in the NFL, but the pass protection is still a concern there. Then we got Brandon Shell, comes over from the Jets, a longtime starter there, and he plugs in and plays like a starting caliber tackle in this game. He's going to go up, get a little bit of respect for this team, a good passing week. Ethan Pochik was a bust for the Seattle Seahawks for a long time. You're going to have to fact check me on this. I can only imagine this is his contract year. He was a second round pick. He feels like he's been in the league for more than 4 years, but it's got to be a contract year for him. And he's coming out playing well. He beat out free agent signing BJ Finney for that starting center position. So he's going to go 4 overall this week. Handled a good interior rush for the Falcons pretty well, so going to potentially continue to rise after making a statement here in his first start. Bobby Wagner looking like his old self here. He's going to go up 1. Making those plays in coverage, he had what would have been his highest graded game in 2019 here in week 1. Then Lano Hill getting some starting safety, not starting, but rotational strong safety reps, making the most of those opportunities. He's going to go up 1. And then LJ Collier, last year's first round pick, plenty of opportunity to step in and fill in here, making a slight impact as a pass rusher here. Wasn't overly impressed, but good to at least see him get the majority of the reps there at that defensive end spot, rotating in, playing some defensive tackle tackle as well. Kind of playing the what was it? Not Justin Jefferson, but I'm just going to keep rolling here. But the Jefferson that they had last year, who was actually their leading pressure getter, that is the role that Collier is going to play here. Some defensive end edge on early downs as a run defender, and then rotate in to get that interior pressure on passing downs. They're really hoping that he can continue to develop in that role. Some notes here. Freddie Swain was a 7th-round receiver that I liked out of Florida for his movement skills. The way he moved actually kind of reminds me of Golden Tate. Now, he's really fluid, but he needs to refine his route running. Didn't really produce a whole lot, but did get on the field for 32 snaps. Not something I was expecting in week 1 from him for someone that I thought was pretty raw. So just keeping an eye on Freddie Swain there. If nothing else impressive that he could get on the field here. Then Jamal Adams. We love Jamal Adams here on this channel. There's no room for him to go up this week, but he played great in his Seattle debut. And then definitely keeping an eye on the Marquise Blair, Ugo Amadi competition at slot corner. I'm not really sure what Seattle's doing here, to be honest. Ugo Amadi, to me, coming out of Oregon, was that ideal NFL slot corner, strong safety, hybrid nickel defender. And they're moving Marquise Blair, who's this stiff, downhill, free safety type, to slot corner. I thought he had lost this job out. They didn't play Amadi last year when I thought they should have. I'm not going to fully question Pete Carroll and his decisions for this defense, but this one doesn't make sense to me. Marquise Blair was terrible in this game in the slot. Got just obliterated by Russell Gage and Julio and Ridley as well. So do they make this change? Do they keep trying to ride it out with Blair, who is a 2nd-round pick? I think this defense with Amadi in that role would be significantly better. Maybe Amadi's injured. I don't know. Seahawks fans, let me know. Then we have the Falcons side of the ball here. We've got Calvin Ridley going up +1 into the 80 range. Really impressive route running. A strong debut for Calvin Ridley, who I go back and forth on. It's just kind of a matter of consistency with him. The one thing that does kind of let me down with him is he's not always as good after the catch as I'd want him to be with the shiftiness that he does have. But a smooth route runner, had really good hands in this game. Climbing up here in year 3 here for Calvin Ridley. Then we got Russell Gage. We mentioned him earlier. He had a lot of production in the slot. He was coming on strong last year. This is something this offense could really use, is a 3rd target. They're hoping Russell Gage, Hayden Hurst, those guys can step up. Hurst had a big downfield catch in this game, but Gage, kind of that weird, lengthy 6-foot slot receiver, but he gets the job done. Think like Tajay Sharp here for Russell Gage. So a good week for the receivers. And then Todd Gurley, yuck. He just looked slow, sluggish. His body language was terrible. Couldn't really help this team move the ball at all. The only good play he had was jumping over the goal line for a 1-yard touchdown. So I think he's only going to get worse as the season goes on. This is a team that I think actually kind of needs a running back. They want to get that outside zone explosive run game going. And the offensive line wasn't bad in this one, especially run blocking. So I was not impressed at all by Todd Gurley. In fact, it was quite the opposite. He's going to go down 1. And then we have Grady Jarrett going to go up 1. This is more of, I couldn't decide heading into the year if I wanted him 87 or an 88. His pressure numbers from last year were actually lower than I expected at like 54, which is obviously good, but not elite for that interior group. Well, comes out, gets a couple sacks in this game. I think it was 5 or 6 pressures. Really dominating game from Grady Jarrett. One of the best interior defensive linemen. I want to show that respect there. And then we have a bit of a free safety conversation here with Atlanta. Ricardo Allen has been the free safety here for a long time. Well, not only did he have a terrible game here in the rotational role that he played, getting about 25, 30 snaps, well, he has now lost his job to Damontae Keyz, who has played a little bit of everything for this defense, but it seems we're getting a changing of the guard at that free safety position. I want my ratings to reflect that. Keyz also had a good game here, really coming downfield, secure tackler, showing off that range that Ricardo Allen potentially might be losing at this age. So a changing of the guard at that free safety spot. And then some notes here. Matt Hennessy, one of my favorite mid-round linemen in this draft, uber athletic developmental center out of Temple. He got a lot of reps at guard this week. I think James Carpenter potentially getting banged up in there. Really fits the outside zone scheme that this team runs, especially in the run game. Definitely a guy that I think has potential at guard, but I look at him as a long-term answer at center to Alex Mack. But he played well, given the chances. So do we see a change at guard? I don't know. James Carpenter played pretty well here as well, and the interior for Seattle is not particularly good. So just a note there on Matt Hennessy. No movement, but a player I like. Talk McKinley had a good game here. He's well rated for a guy that has been mostly disappointing as a former first-round pick. I want to see it again, but certainly a guy that could be on the rise. And then we talked about that Ricardo Allen, Damontae Kazee battle. So let's move on to the next game here. We've got the Browns-Ravens blowout. We're going to start with the Cleveland Browns, and this is actually going to include yesterday's Thursday night football game. I figured let's use all of the information we have. This is probably going to be normal moving forward because this video will be coming out Friday, Saturday. If we have the grades and the tape from the Thursday night game, we might as well include it. So this is the last 2 weeks, but only 3 players moving here for the Cleveland Browns. And Wyatt Teller, I had to put that flame emote next to him because he certainly would have gone up week 1 and definitely continued to go up week 2. This was an excellent addition, getting this guy over from Buffalo, and he had a good year last year, but he's currently the highest-rated offensive lineman per PFF, and he's now played 2 games against 2 good interior defensive lines, although the Bengals had some guys out. But regardless, Wyatt Teller really impressing, and my goodness, if he is playing like this for the course of this season, I mean, we saw the effects of it yesterday against the Bengals. I mean, my goodness, they were blowing those guys off the ball. So Wyatt Teller certainly developing very quickly into potentially a star guard, which is saying a lot considering the rest of the linemen in place there in Cleveland. And then on the interior, we talked about this a little bit throughout the week, but Larry Ogunjobi showing some different strengths to his game, quite literally looking like a beast in the trenches in the run game. Specifically week 1, wasn't bad week 2, but this is a guy that's been, to me, a better pass rusher than a better pass rusher than run defender over the course of his career, but an elite run defending performance against the Ravens week 1, which we know that's not easy. The final score didn't reflect it, but Cleveland actually did a decent job against the read option, and the combination of Jordan Elliott, Larry Ogunjobi in the middle, able to do their job in the run game and allow the contain unit to force the ball inside to these guys, really all work together. But Larry Ogunjobi was the pinnacle of why that worked, really just blowing guys up in the backfield, flying off the ball, showing a lot of ability to take on tough blocks in the middle and get off of them and make plays in the backfield. So a guy that I've always considered as a better pass rusher than run defender, changing things up a little bit here in his contract year. So someone we want to continue to monitor as the season goes on. And then Jordan Elliott going to go up +1 as well, a rookie a lot of people liked. Again, a guy that I looked at as more of a pass rusher coming out of Missouri, but playing tough on the interior, playing good run defense for this Cleveland Browns team. I would like to see these guys potentially increase their production as pass rushers now, which I know they have the potential to do. Then they could be true 3-down interior guys, but showing some strengths there in run defense that I didn't quite know they had. And then we have Baker Mayfield here in the notes. He's not going to go up or down. I mean, he was so bad I don't even want to say that. Like, he just wasn't great week 1. I think there was a lot of extenuating circumstances for why the Browns did not play well. Baker was not a benefactor to them, but did okay in week 1. And then week 2, he played really well. Now, I've got him rated very well at 78. I have high expectations for Baker Mayfield this year. It was good to see him come out and execute them week 2. The Bengals defense is reeling right now, and I want to see Baker one more week, but very much could be on the cusp of going up next week based on what we saw week 2. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens side of the ball here, and I mean, guys, I will fully admit when I'm wrong, and I loved watching Lamar Jackson come out and just, to me, put up by far the best passing performance he's had in his career, in my opinion. Start to finish, threw the ball 30 times, was remarkably accurate downfield, was hanging in the pocket, throwing strikes with hands in his face. That's the kind of stuff that's going to make Lamar Jackson sustainable as a quarterback for the future. I've never really doubted that he could develop these things. But the reality is we didn't see stuff like this last year. This wasn't really how the offense operated. What we saw this week was the Browns did a decent enough job against the read option that they forced Lamar to throw the ball downfield, and he did it. He executed and was flawless in doing so. So to me, this was the most impressive passing performance of Lamar Jackson's career. This wasn't play action, hitting Mark Andrews wide open over the middle, or getting guys wide open downfield on play action. This was tight window throws against NFL defenses with traditional passing concepts. This is the kind of stuff that gets Lamar Jackson's Madden rating out of the 80s and into the 90s. People are like, how do you have him at an 82? He won MVP. Well, he didn't throw the ball much last year. This is all about consistency and really about volume and seeing it over time. I can't make Lamar a 90 overall when he was 28th in passing attempts last year and only threw for 3,100 yards. I just can't do it. But man, was he accurate in this game, and man, does he deserve the respect. So good for Lamar. And then Mark Andrews just continues to climb. At what point do we throw him into the conversation with Kittle and Kelsey? I don't know if he's quite there or not, but certainly seems to be separating the gap to me between whoever else is fourth. Mark Andrews just really showing out for the Ravens. He is really how this offense works in a lot of ways. They're clearly opening things up, but God, he is just such a star tight end. I can't say enough about him. And then we have Marquise Brown going up, being the beneficiary of Lamar Jackson opening up this passing offense quite a bit. I mean, he was really impressive, getting open downfield, sure hands, making guys miss after the catch, showing why he was a top, 15 pick in last year's draft. Willie Snead impressing out of the slot, making some plays downfield. Jihad Ward, as we move on to the defensive side of the ball, going to go up 1 overall. A guy that's been kind of a situational rusher here for Baltimore, but making some plays in run defense, stepping up. And I'm going to be honest, Derek Wolfe, not so much impressive in this sort of 4-tech role, but Jihad Ward was the one that stepped up in run defense, getting about a third of the amount of snaps or a half the amount of snaps that Wolfe did get. So something to keep an eye on there if Ward could come for Derek Wolfe's job, who is not a highly demanded free agent there, Derek Wolfe. And then we have the edge guys getting involved as pass rushers. This rotation in Baltimore just gets the job done. None of these guys are true superstars, but Jalen Ferguson, Tyus Bowser, two very different players. Ferguson, that big-bodied, 275-pound force, and then Tyus Bowser, more of that sort of hybrid guy who's going to drop into coverage a lot, a really smart player, fast in pursuit. They are just moving these guys around. They blitz a ton, and really getting good pass rush out of non-superstar pass rushers, which is what the Ravens do so well. So that's going to wrap up this game. We do have some question marks at right guard for the Baltimore Ravens. They ended up starting Tyree Phillips at right guard. Third-round rookie, wasn't particularly impressive. So do they get some of these other guys into the mix, whether it be DJ Fluker, Ben Powers, Ben Bredesen? They got some depth. I would like to see them get that position locked down. It's definitely a weakness on that offensive line, maybe the only weakness on this entire team. Next up, we have the Jets at the Bills, and it's going to be Mekhi Becton moving up for the Jets, a strong rookie debut, maybe the only bright spot on that offense for the Jets. But the technique looked good, and he handled a decent defensive line for the Bills very well. So impressed by Mekhi Becton in his debut, but Sam Darnold, on the other hand, rough. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of help, but you can't always make excuses for him. Dumb throws into double coverage, it's something he has struggled with, not decisive as a passer, just not getting the job done. Starting to have my doubts about someone that was one of my favorite prospects coming out in recent memory. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they do have some climbers here. Marcus May was all over the field, playing a little more of that Jamal Adams role. His stat line was LeBron James-esque. I think he had 6 tackles, like 4 defensive stops, 2 sacks, a pass breakup, like a 50 quarterback rating when targeted, was just playing every position, was really impressive. You couldn't miss him if you were watching this game. And then you had Falorenzu Lorenzo Fatukasi, who was an emerging breakout run defender last year, and he continues to do so, keeping to climb up here as a run defender. And then Pierre Desir gets benched in this game as a free agent signing from the Colts, who they released. His career trajectory is falling off a cliff. I don't know if he gets that starting job back or not. We'll have to wait and see. Then on to the Buffalo Bills side of the ball here. As soon as my computer updates, there we go. Dawson Knox gonna go up +1. Young tight end that I really like. Reminds me of a young George Kittle in a lot of ways because he's so athletic. He's so tenacious as a blocker. But just to this point in his career, both at Mississippi and here in Buffalo, just underutilized as a pass catcher, but does step up when given those opportunities. So I feel like he's just a star waiting to break out. He has everything in him, but when he's getting those opportunities, and he's showing it every snap with the blocking, so you got to respect that. Then we have Darrell Williams. There he is. That's that superstar tackle that we saw in 2018. Going up +1 this week. We don't want to overreact. He has had a really rough couple of years after surprisingly not getting paid from the Carolina Panthers. He comes over here to Buffalo this year and is actually starting at right tackle on a pretty deep offensive line. They kick Cody Ford into right guard. A lot of potential with this offensive line now, with Ford at right guard, Williams at right tackle, who I know can play at an elite level at tackle. He just completely fell off the face of the earth, but he's back now after getting moved from left tackle to left guard to a different team. He's back now at right where he played well, at right tackle. He looks healthy, going up. We'll see how he continues to grow. And there's Quentin Jefferson, who we talked about for Seattle, coming over here to Buffalo, playing that same role, contributing as a pass rusher, going up +1, 72 to a 73. Just kind of a home wrecker on the inside there for the Bills. And then Matt Milano continues his climb, emerging as one of the premier cover linebackers in the NFL. Definitely a name you need to know at this point. He is one of the unknown stars on this Buffalo team that is just very deep and very talented. He had an interception this week, showing off that coverage ability against Sam Darnold. And then just some notes here. Josh Allen, I do need to, I don't want to say apologize, because I do think that those bad trends as far as his accuracy and the fumbling stuff, it's just a part of his game that I do wonder how much that's going to limit his overall ceiling. But Josh Allen was mostly good. He really showed off that elite pocket presence that I think he has, at least the ability to manipulate the pocket and get out and extend plays. So really showed that off, showed off the arm talent, made some really impressive throws in this game. So Allen was mostly good. I think if he plays well this upcoming week, or maybe even another week after that, because he's just going against the Dolphins this week. But certainly a guy that could be on the rise soon. And then Ed Oliver as well. Played really well. He's a guy that's rated with a lot of respect, having that blue chip profile as a prospect coming out. But I just want to see it at a more consistent level before I boost him up moving forward. Next up, we have what was a very exciting game between the Raiders and the Carolina Panthers. Starting with the Raiders, Richie Incognito has officially, to me, reached like all-pro superstar level. Was at that level last year. Was it a fluke? He's 36, 37 years old. Well, he comes out and shows, nah. He just buries Derek Brown this week, going up against a pretty talented interior defensive line for the Panthers. Him and Rodney Hudson together, probably the best center guard duo that I can think of right now. Just unbelievable, this pickup the Raiders have had. What a find to get Richie Incognito, playing the best football of his career at 36, 37 years old. Really impressive stuff. Then Josh Jacobs, we talked about him, not going to talk about him anymore. Henry Ruggs going up +1. I will apologize on this one. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I guess, proved me wrong this week, but Henry Ruggs, I would say even more so. I've kind of stopped doubting Lamar. I've just been waiting to see it like we did. With Henry Ruggs, I did have some doubts here. I obviously liked him as a prospect. Who didn't? But Derek Carr has just not shown that propensity in years to look downfield. And when they drafted Ruggs, I was like, is this really gonna work? And a lot of it was scheme stuff, play action, getting him open on crossing routes and stuff, posts. But it worked. Like, he was wide open. Derek Carr stepped into it, let it rip. Downfield, that's what Henry Ruggs is here to do, right? And I credit Ruggs, I credit Derek Carr, I credit John Gruden for drawing this up and getting Ruggs in here. Clearly, that was the plan with Antonio Brown, is what they're doing with Henry Ruggs here. So, impressive start for Henry Ruggs, and they were really getting him involved in the offense more than I thought. I thought he was just going to be this deep target that saw a couple shots each game. But they really were starting to run their passing game through him. So a big start for Henry Ruggs, who looked really good. And then on the edge, a couple guys here. Clelin Ferrell moving up. Now, I do need to say, offered absolutely nothing as a pass rusher yet again. I'm pretty sure he had 0 pressures. If it wasn't 0, it was 1 on like 25 pass rush snaps. But he is quickly emerging, for whatever it's worth, as one of the best run defending edge players in the league. Obviously, that's not very valuable. You can find guys like Al-Qadim Mohammed for the Indianapolis Colts that give you the same thing that Clelin Ferrell, who this team drafted 4th overall, does. But you do have to give him that credit for being a really good run defender. So there you go, +1. And then Arden Key was the best pass rusher this week. You can see in my notes, Max Crosby, not a good week. 1 pressure on 33 pass rush snaps. Not a good week, but Arden Key showing some of that burst that he once had at LSU. He's developing here and potentially could be this team's best edge rusher this year, which is not ideal, but good for Arden Key. And then we kind of talked about Derek Carr. As we go to the notes here, he opened up this offense a little bit, looked really comfortable. Granted, this Panthers defense is probably going to rival these very Raiders for the worst defense in the NFL. So I want to see him do it against better competition. He gets to take on the Saints this week, a great opportunity to move up for Derek Carr. Damon Arnett, not a terrible game, but did get obliterated by Robbie Anderson on a double move. Not a prospect that I thought warranted a first-round pick. So just keeping an eye on that. Then Max Crosby we talked about. And then Jonathan Abram, kind of his debut here. He may have started week 1 last year. I can't remember exactly when he got hurt. But he was Jonathan Abram. This team did spend a first-round pick on him. I don't think that was a good pick, but he did look really good in run defense. He came up and blasted Christian McCaffrey once. Now Christian got him back later in the game. Fun to see these guys going at it. Abram is a huge trash talker and a big hitter, but he was flying around making some tackles, so I think he was certainly happy to be out there. So someone we're going to keep an eye on, potentially boosting those run defense abilities next week against another short-hitting passing game in the Saints. He's going to have his hands full with that unit. And then for the Carolina Panthers, I thought Teddy Bridgewater looked extremely comfortable. He looked way better than I thought he would. I thought he would have, kind of similar production here, kind of look the same as far as this offense goes, just kind of executing a short to intermediate passing game, but it was really the mobility and the composure and the pocket presence and just confidence he had that really impressed me. He kind of had that it factor at the quarterback spot. Now, his arm talent is always going to hold him back. I don't think anyone would argue that. But he even hit Robbie Anderson down the sideline that Anderson had roasted Damon Arnett. Like, if it's there, he can hit it. It's just not going to be consistent, but really well-run offense here under Teddy Bridgewater from day one, which says a lot about Teddy's understanding of coverages and his pre-snap processor. So a big week for Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know how much higher he can go just because of that arm talent is not very good as far as his Madden rating goes, but overall very impressed by Teddy Bridgewater. Russell Okung, this trade was actually criticized at first look when they traded Trey Turner for Russell Okung straight up. And that was mostly because there was questions about how much football Russell Okung had in him, especially now coming to a Panthers team that's rebuilding. And the question was, is this guy going to buy into a rebuild? And there was even talk about him opting out or retiring this offseason. Well, none of that yet. He stepped in there and was dominant at left tackle. So if that's true and they can get 2 or 3 plus years of high quality left tackle play for Trey Turner, who didn't suit up at guard for the Chargers, that's a steal of a trade for the Panthers. Certainly winning a trade that myself and the majority of the public initially said was a terrible move for the Panthers. I just think this organization is one that's going to as the time goes on, prove people wrong on stuff like that. I'm really buying into what's going on here in Carolina. Matt Paradise stepping up with more continuity around him on this offensive line, more time to get in here and be prepared. Looked good in pass protection especially. And then Rasul Douglas looking like a good pickup here. They got him from Philadelphia, who could actually use a good corner right now, but Douglas, not exactly the fastest guy out there, wasn't the best scheme fit for Philadelphia, so I get it. But coming in here for Carolina, where they're trying to run some more simple stuff, get these guys to play fast, and a lot of zone coverage, I believe. I would need to have to double check that, but Rasul Douglas certainly fit for more of a zone-heavy scheme. Regardless, he had a good week here for the Carolina Panthers. And then just some notes here. DJ Moore had a rough week, some drops, left a lot of, I think, at least yards, potentially points on the board. I think he'll bounce back, but not a great week for the rising star and DJ Moore. The pass rushers for Carolina, just, I'm not going to say a concern, but not quite ready yet. Derek Brown, Brian Burns, Yetur Gross-Matos, not really doing a whole lot getting after the quarterback. Granted, against a really good offensive line, potentially the best offensive line in the NFL for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I actually forgot to mention that Sam Young went up for the Raiders as well, who stepped in at right tackle. But then we also have Troy Pride getting a little ding here for the Panthers. That young secondary, he really did not look like he should be on an NFL field at the moment. I like his upside, but he was just lost out there. Got embarrassed by the Raiders receivers. So let's go ahead and move on to our next game, where we're going to have the Bears and Lions. Anthony Miller, what a catch that was to set up a game-winning touchdown. I think he got pushed out at the 1-yard line, but only like 26 snaps for Anthony Miller. Not a full-time starter here. What's going on, Matt Nagy? Let's get him on the field. He's a playmaker. He can get open. He can make tough catches. He's good after the catch. Certainly a guy that a lot of people are waiting to break out if the play calling and more specifically quarterback play can be more consistent here. But Darnell Mooney as well, getting a lot of playing time here in his rookie debut. So keep an eye on Darnell Mooney to potentially emerge as a slot option here. A rotational player with Anthony Miller was a good separator coming out of Tulsa. That's what wins in the NFL for the most part. So he had a good debut. Jalen Johnson. I talked about him on a podcast a couple weeks ago. Someone asked a rookie that was going to surprise in his first year. And I sat there and thought, and I was having a hard time coming up with it with someone, and it just came to me. Jalen Johnson is just the perfect fit for this Bears defense. Running a lot of zone coverage. They have a good pass rush in front of him, and he can just make plays. Basically, other than getting trucked by Marvin Jones, he had an excellent game. Breaking up passes, contributing to interceptions, and just, I think, set for a really solid career at corner. My pro comp for him was actually Prince Amukamara, who this team kind of needs 2018 Prince Amukamara on this defense. That cornerback 2 spot was a problem for them. Jalen Johnson looking like a really good pick coming out of Utah. Plug and play, lengthy zone corner. And then edge, James Vaughters getting those edge reps left behind by, what's his name? Lynch, the big-bodied edge player. Vaughters a little bit of a different player, more quick, but uses that quickness to get off blocks and get to the edge in the run game. So getting those rotational run-defending snaps here, James Vaughters, who's hung around this roster for at least a year. I think he's a second-year player. But grading out well in run defense. He's going to get some respect. And then just some notes here. Mitch Trubisky. We've talked about him throughout the week, but fourth quarter Mitch showed up here. Not enough to get a boost here, but did play well down the stretch and didn't lose them the game early on enough. So got to credit him for a good performance, not a great performance. And then Khalil Mack was back doing Khalil Mack things. I never lowered him because I think he dealt with some injuries, just didn't have everything around him in place to be best edge player in the NFL, Khalil Mack, but 6 pressures in this game and a sack was awesome. So Khalil Mack just kind of looks back to me. And then for the Lions, Danny Amendola having a late career renaissance here. really producing in the slot. He did that last year, but with Kenny Golladay out here, he was a focal point of this offense, and he delivered, making plays out of the slot as he does. But he's going to go up to a 76. And then Terrell Crosby, this is an interesting thing here. So Halapavute Vaitai, who this team gave $50 million in free agency, who was a backup tackle for the Eagles, who to me is not a starting caliber tackle, at least, potentially a guard. But I thought Terrell Crosby, I said it when they signed Vaitai, is potentially a better tackle. And he came out there and obviously going against Khalil Mack, he's not going to win all the time, but he held his own, seeing a lot of Khalil Mack, and looked like a starting caliber tackle out there. So he is a guy that I think when they get Vaitai back should either get kicked into guard or you kick Vaitai into guard. I liked Crosby coming out of Oregon. I thought that was one of the steals of that draft. I had a second-round grade on him. He's done nothing but play well when he gets those opportunities. So I don't really understand what Detroit's doing here, messing around with this. It seems to me like you have a player that should be getting these opportunities, and they are doing everything they can to put him back on the bench. So let the man play. Whether it's a guard or tackle, I think he could do both. He even contributed as a run blocker, something he didn't do at Oregon. So I was impressed by Terrell Crosby. I hope for Detroit's sake that they continue to give him these opportunities, because I think he's done the most with them when they give it to him. Then we have some notes here. Jason Kabinda, a linebacker that I liked out of Penn State, is playing fullback here and doing it at a relatively high level. So keeping an eye on that. TJ Hawkinson had a good game. He's rated appropriately because he was such a high draft pick and did actually disappoint last year. So hoping he can take that ever so important jump in year 2 for these tight ends. Gerard Davis had a good game at linebacker, believe it or not. Former first-round pick and a bit of a prove-it season there for Detroit. And then Reggie Ragland and Jelani Tavai. Kind of different positions here, but very similar players. Ragland actually played some of that outside linebacker role there with Jamie Collins getting ejected here, but he played really well when they asked that of him. I talked about Ragland in my deep dive. He's a guy that has that size as that massive thumping linebacker in the middle who's had some success in this league. And I said in that deep dive that he has a higher upside than Jelani Tavai at that middle linebacker spot. So is this something that, and Tavai, by the way, had a bad game at middle linebacker, if you ask me, getting abused in coverage. Not that Ragland would be great in coverage, but I think he could be a better athlete in that part of the field than Tavai. Something to keep an eye on as we move forward. No overall changes, however. Then we've got Colts at Jaguars. This was an interesting game. For the Indianapolis Colts, it's not panic mode yet. There's definitely some names that we could throw out there of guys that might be going down. Xavier Rhodes included, you can see there in the notes. But Paris Campbell did look good, and this was a big thing for the Colts. We wanted to see him get going. They spent a high second-round pick on him. I had him very high in my receiver rankings. Keep in mind, most people had Paris Campbell rated higher than Terry McLaurin coming out of Ohio State. And Campbell, to me, showed some of that classic Ohio State route running. These Ohio State receivers are well known for having those route running abilities. The problem is at Ohio State, Paris Campbell never really was used downfield. He was almost always used in the screen game, and it was really just a matter of what's kind of that hidden potential here. We didn't get to see it as a rookie. He missed almost his entire season for injuries and dealt with poor quarterback play, but here he is out there with Phillip Rivers, whose skill set should be perfect for a short to intermediate star like Paris Campbell. Made some tough catches as well. Really excited to see Paris Campbell's season as we move forward, and I thought he showed out in his debut here. And then Danico Autry continues to develop as a interior presence, kind of an undersized weight-wise. He is 6'5", but not the strongest guy for a defensive tackle, but he shows it as a pass rusher, playing low, getting off the ball, converting that get-off into power, which really works. So another good week for Danico Autry, potentially benefiting as well from playing next to DeForest Buckner, who's pretty good in this game. And then got to credit Al-Qadim Muhammad, who's rated appropriately, but another good game in run defense. Good to see a low-level investment. Can't remember if he's a 7th-round pick or an undrafted player, but plays that that typical rotational run-defending edge role in this Seattle 3 defense, where he's going to come in for first, maybe second down, play a couple run defense reps, and get off the field, because he's not much of a pass rusher, but continuing to play that role well in a thankless position as that run-defending edge, but still deserves credit. And then for the Jacksonville side, lots of movement here. No surprise here. Gardner Minshew moving up, proving the world wrong, looking like, at worst, a starting caliber quarterback. Really efficient in the short to intermediate passing game. Not afraid to go deep, but knows that with this receiving core, with a lot of good short to intermediate passing targets, with a good play caller in Jay Gruden that's going to get these guys open quick and early, and with a good mental processor in Gardner Minshew to pick apart a zone defense like the Colts kept running, just a great showing. Was accurate, decisive, extended plays out of the pocket, went vertical when he needed to, got DJ Chark involved. So really impressed with Gardner Minshew. This is kind of a middle finger to the world type of season for Gardner Minshew. So impressed to see what he can do here moving forward. They're going to take on the Titans this week. Could they go to 2-0 and then we see him on Thursday Night Football? We'll see. But overall, I'm in on Gardner Minshew. If he becomes a superstar, I will be buying his jersey because I'm all about the Jags saying, hey, we aren't tanking. We never were tanking. We were getting a bunch of losers off our team that didn't want to be here. We're building something special here and playing for our head coach that I don't personally like from my desk in Minneapolis, but they clearly want to play for Coach Marone. Then we have Keelan Cole. This guy just can't seem to decide, at least before this year, if he wants to be good or not, because he was great as a totally out of nowhere rookie and then disappeared off the face of the earth. And then last year was poor to start and finished strong. And here he is continuing that momentum with Gardner Minshew as a rotational receiver, but making plays when he gets those opportunities. Really good fourth wide receiver there, Keelan Cole. Cam Robinson going up +1. The offensive line as a unit was really good here. Thought about Taylor, the right tackle, moving him up potentially next week. AJ Cann's going to go up +1. Both the center, the left guard here, Norwell and Linder, everyone in rhythm this week against the Colts. They're up against it this week against a good Titans front next week, but potentially some more rising and some young talent here for this offensive line that could really help Gardner Minshew moving forward for the future. James Robinson taking a victory lap on this one. If you listen to my podcast, I really hope you had James Robinson in all your fantasy leagues. He's looking like the next sleeper undrafted free agent. Your CJ Anderson, that's actually a pretty decent comp for him. Your Phillip Lindsay. We get one of these every once in a while, and it looks like James Robinson is the next one. He is your typical contact balance inside runner who also contributes in the receiving game, can make guys miss and break off arm tackles in space. Just a talented running back, not an uber athlete, but shows some really good burst through the holes and was ultra productive at, Southern Illinois. He had a ton of rushing yards there, and it's translating now to the NFL. Then we have cornerback C.J. Henderson, rookie top 10 pick, hitting it early against Phillip Rivers. Was just a dominant cornerback performance here from C.J. Henderson. Elite athlete, and to see that translate early, really like to see that for Jacksonville, who's looking for some young stars to step up here in Jacksonville, including Josh Jones, who I am stunned to see playing at a high level. Now, he is the reason this team traded Ronnie Harrison away. They were really impressed with what they saw from Josh Jones, who was a former second round pick for the Green Bay Packers, who was used just disgustingly out of position. They were using him at free safety for the most part, and that's just not what he does. Well, Jacksonville here is saying, hey, how about you try playing the Cam Chancellor role in this defense? You're a freaky athlete at 6'2", 220 pounds, built like a linebacker, but runs like a free safety. Tons of potential here for Josh Jones. Seems to have found a scheme that works for him. This team has confidence in him. He has found a place that he wants to be. This is a player that formerly requested a trade out of Green Bay. It seems he actually knew what he was talking about. He was like, this team is using me as a free safety. What the hell? That's not my game. I should be down here playing outside linebacker. And Jacksonville has the perfect spot for him. And they get rid of what's his name from Alabama, send him to Cleveland, and upgrade here with Josh Jones. We'll see if he can really take this thing by storm, but he's at least playing like a starting caliber player who's going to fly around and make some tackles. So that is your Jags-Colts game. Next up, the Packers at Vikings. Tons of movement for Green Bay. A lot of roster talent revealing itself here in Green Bay that we didn't know they had. Overall, granted against a pretty poor Vikings defensive line, this offensive line for the Packers was strictly dominant. Everyone going up here. Bakhtiari, who did have one of his worst years in a while last year, just dominant this week, just locking down Yannick Ngakoue on several occasions. So that was impressive. Corey Linsley getting a little respect here. He graded out extremely well. Rick Wagner seems to have found a scheme that works here as a run blocker out of Wisconsin. I kind of floated the idea that in this kind of outside zone, run-heavy scheme, a team that coaches up these linemen really well in pass protection, that Rick Wagner, I don't know if would be an upgrade to Brian Bulaga, but almost a lateral move at a discount and potentially an upgrade in run blocking, and that's what we saw in week 1. John Runyon got in here. This was really a unique week for Green Bay because it's not often you see guys getting injured. Lane Taylor went down in this game. There was no Billy Turner in this game. And Green Bay had to go to their 6th, 7th, 8th lineman, as we saw here with John Runyon, who played about 15, 20 snaps this week, but played great in those snaps. So he's going to go up, a rookie out of Michigan, whose dad played for the Packers. Elton Jenkins getting some respect, a star guard who really emerged later as the season went on. He stepped out and played some right tackle in this game and played well out there. So just a dominant week for this offensive line that I think is making a statement as one of the premier offensive lines in the league, right there with teams like the Saints, the Colts, and the Raiders. And then the playmakers stepping up as well. I'm happy to say that Josiah DeGuara was really impressive. I mocked this team to no avail, to no end, really, for drafting a blocking tight end in the 3rd round. Well, you see him pulling and take out 2 guys, diving on a beautiful lead block, and you see the beauty of what Josiah DeGuara can do in that Kyle Juszczyk type of idea here for this position. So he actually made a big impact and did some nice things in the receiving game as well. So he looks, I'm not going to say like a great pick, but he looks like he might be someone that's going to impact this offense. And what makes that even more nice is that these receivers stepped up, particularly Alan Lazard. He's going to go up 1. Devontae Adams with a receiver performance for the ages against this terrible Vikings secondary. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to have to go up. I mean, he was getting open, and I can't say all the time that getting open is the most important trait for receivers and not give him credit for that. Now, I still think his hands are absolutely despicable, and he bricked a beautiful 50-plus yard just dime from Aaron Rodgers that should have been a 75-yard touchdown, but he made it up in other plays. He had a terrible drop on a slant and 3rd and 6 as well, though. So this is just who he is. He is a roller coaster player, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I still think this team would be better off calling Robert Foster up off the practice squad, whose hands could be more reliable. Very similar player. But for now, MVS is a part of this offense, and if he could get those hands to work consistently, he has a ton of upside. But man, is it bad how many times he drops the ball. And then just one movement on the defensive side of the ball. The defense did play well overall, I thought, and then gave up a bunch of garbage time points. But Chris Barnes really the only one of note here. Chris Barnes, that is. Something about UCLA linebackers, man. They just show up in the NFL so consistently. We're going to have another one later in the show. But Chris Barnes, an undrafted rookie free agent, comes out, has what would have been the best play of Blake Martinez's career, blowing up a screenplay for about a 5-6 yard loss. But he's a guy to keep an eye on. It looks like he'll be starting full-time this week against the Lions, so we'll see. And then Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I had him rated as the 3rd best quarterback in the league. That is not going to change this week. His rating is not going to change. If he continues to play like that, however, he will, because that was elite, all-time great quarterback play there in week 1. So we'll see if he keeps that up. If he will continue to climb up and potentially get up there towards your Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes type of players, which I think is perfectly fair given how he looked here week 1. Was just a dominant performance. And then for the Vikings, not so much movement. I don't want to overreact here. The defense was missing a lot of guys, especially in the front there. And then just offensively they just match up so poorly against this pass rush. So I don't want to overreact. I do have my worries about this team for sure. So Holton Hill is going to go down. I mean, he was just obliterated by everyone this week. Didn't look like he should be starting for an NFL team. But then just some notes for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson not making that day one impact. I've heard some pretty crazy takes about how he could be better than Stephon Diggs, how they wouldn't miss a beat without Diggs because Justin Jefferson is going to step in. Look, I like Justin Jefferson, but that's ridiculous. Stephon Diggs is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Justin Jefferson is a rookie in a COVID season, playing in a completely different scheme than he played in LSU. So he made some plays. I'm not saying we should be concerned, but he just wasn't really anywhere to be found, like some people I think were expecting. Yannick Ngakoue was really bad in this game. I've said that he needs to be a team's number 2. When they get Neil Hunter back, I think he'll be just fine. In fact, probably more than just fine. But we saw the results of him being the team's number 1 this week, and it was not pretty. And then Anthony Harris, rough week. He's a star safety. I think he'll bounce back, but we do need to note that he got obliterated in coverage this week. Really, the entire secondary, not named Harrison Smith, disappointed this week. And they did go to the rookie out of TCU late in the game, Jeff Gladney. But that's really it. All right, let's move on. We've got the Dolphins at the Patriots. For the Dolphins, offensively, Myles Gaskin showing some nice hands out of the backfield, some nice runs as well. He's a player that I liked coming out of Washington. He's an interesting little third down back who can do some things in the run game. I don't know if he'll ever be much more than that, but finally getting some opportunities here, making some plays. Solomon Kinley, I actually said in my draft grades video that there's a chance that he could be this team's best lineman in their rookie season, with Austin Jackson maybe needing some time to develop. Same thing about Robert Hunt. And in week 1, he was this team's best offensive lineman, gets the start at right guard. I think Hunt is injured. I don't know if Kinley will keep that job, but he looks like a good pick in the 4th round. A beast, a mauler coming out of Georgia. And then on the defense, Christian Wilkins, a good week in run defense. Still not much of a pass rusher, but needs a little boost for his performance this week. A couple of defensive stops. And then free safety, Bobby McCain. A good week at free safety. This team put a lot of confidence in him by not replacing him. A converted corner, playing free safety. Looked comfortable back there. Improved his tackling this week and looks like a starting caliber free safety, at least right now. And then for the Patriots, lots of movement here. Jermaine Illuminor, currently the 6th highest rated right tackle in the NFL per PFF. Patriots traded a 4th round pick for him 2 years ago. The dude's a freak, and here you go. There's Bill Belichick doing it again. Eerily familiar with what this team did with Trent Brown several years ago. Traded a 3rd round pick for him. Got him in there a year because of an injury and was clearly a star tackle. We'll see if Illuminor can keep it up. He had a very easy matchup against the Dolphins pass rush, which is hardly a pass rush, if you can even call it that. But Illuminor, a guy that was drafted as a guard by Baltimore, starting at right tackle. This team not missing a beat with Marcus Cannon out. So it was some question marks on who was going to be playing right tackle for them. And there you go. Jermaine Illuminor with a great week. Isaiah Wynn going to go up. Shaq Mason going to go up. This star lineman here really kicking ass. Mason looked rejuvenated, just mauling dudes out there and playing good in pass protection. And then even Michael Onwenu, who I thought was a good pick out of Michigan, he got in there in some, I'm assuming it was some injury or a rotation, but he got in there and graded out really well. A player I like coming out of Michigan, so going to give him some love there. Ryan Izzo ends up being the starting tight end here for the Patriots. Not doing much in the receiving game, nothing impressive at least, but certainly contributing as a run blocker. Like to see that. This is a run-heavy team, so to get a good run-blocking tight end is at least something out of that position for these Patriots. And then the quarterback, Cam Newton, going to go up 1 here, was very sharp in the short to intermediate passing game. but also looked explosive as a runner at times. I think the ceiling is a little low here for Cam Newton. This is going to be a very telling week against Seattle. I'm more than willing to move him up and be wrong about his ability to throw the ball vertically. I just don't think we're going to see that. This Sunday against Seattle will be a big tell for how much Cam Newton's ceiling really is here for the Patriots, or if he's going to be one of these high-floor mobile quarterbacks in a great system designed to basically win games 21-14. Then the secondary here, my goodness, this was an impressive week for the Bill Belichick-led number one secondary in the league. So they get Jawan Williams going in the nickel, 6'4" safety, slot corner, press, hybrid type of matchup problem. Just you put him on top of an already loaded secondary as just kind of a sidearm for Bill Belichick. It's just nasty. And then J.C. Jackson continues to emerge as one of the premier corners in this league. A big interception in the end zone in this game. Athletic, instinctive, great technique. What a find J.C. Jackson was as an undrafted rookie out of Maryland who's just balling out and continues to do so. And then Adrian Phillips playing a lot of linebacker here. Gets a pick this week. Looked really good in coverage. Another kind of interesting tool for Bill Belichick to deploy. It's super fun to see what this team is doing in the secondary, and it's really impressive. And then Anthony Jennings as well gets out there for some snaps and looked good. They need some guys to step up at that outside linebacker position where they lost some guys and then had Dante Hightower opt out. Anthony Jennings, a rookie that I really liked as a perfect scheme fit here. Would like to see him get some more playing time, but good to see him play well with the opportunities he got. Could be due for a boost if he gets some more playing time. Next up, we have the Eagles-Washington football team game. Carson Wentz is going to go down here, 83-82. That second half was embarrassing, and Carson Wentz should be ashamed of what he put out. He was inaccurate. He was forcing balls into coverage. He was holding onto the ball too long, taking sacks he shouldn't take. I'm sorry, but an elite quarterback doesn't put up a half a football like that. As much as I like Carson Wentz, that was an eye-opening performance, and you could make a strong case that they lost this game because of Carson Wentz. The offensive line wasn't great. They were dealing with a ton of injuries, but they weren't like that bad. There was opportunities here for Carson Wentz to very well put this game away, and instead he threw the game away. So really concerning week for Carson Wentz. I do think he will bounce back, but he deserves to be penalized for that performance because that is now on the record, unfortunately. Tight end Dallas Goedert. This man is just being sheltered by Zach Ertz, and I think this team kind of knows that. They did not extend Zach Ertz here. They're dealing with some cap stuff down the road here, and I think they see Dallas Goedert, and they're like, oh man, this guy's a player. He was the best offensive player in the field for the Eagles by far. So good after the catch, a great run-blocking tight end. He's got the true size, the elite traits for a tight end. A great find in the second round for this team, and I think one of these emerging young tight ends. Very, very similar player to Mark Andrews. And then Josh Sweat, a huge sack in this game. And can someone in the chat in the comments down below, let me know, is he related to Montez Sweat? Because these guys are both freaky, lengthy, explosive edge rushers that ran like 4.5s at 255 pounds. But Sweat, under the radar, had a lot of pressures last year. I want to say like 6 sacks, was viewed as, rightfully so, a true developmental high upside pick in the 4th round by the Eagles several years ago, and he's starting to reach that upside. Not a huge surprise given how well Philadelphia kind of builds this defensive line up, but good to see it in place here. A lone bright spot for this team this week, him and Goddard. And then a note on Avonte Maddox, who I really like in the slot, but he got roasted this week. So keeping an eye on Avonte Maddox. Then we have the Washington football team. Lots of boosts here for a big win for this team. So some physical guys. It was a physical win. I wasn't overly impressed by Dwayne Haskins. It was fine. He kind of looked like I perceive him, kind of a quick passer kind of game for, Dwayne Haskins, but Morgan Moses looks rejuvenated. He's only 29 years old. You would think he's 35 by how long it seems like he's been the right tackle here for the Washington team, but he's going to go up. Had a huge pancake block moving to the right, which he's not known as a great athlete, but that was a really athletic play, so kind of eye-opening there. Good week for Morgan Moses. And then the two tight ends, not so much impressing in the receiving game. Logan Thomas did a couple things as the starting tight end, former quarterback for Virginia Tech, but both these tight ends, Logan Thomas, Marcus Baugh, blocking their asses off for this team. So their blocking traits are going to go up here. Good week for both these guys. And then the edge rushers, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. Chase Young, let's not mess around here, +2, up into that star tier, 82 overall. The man's due for greatness, and he showed it week 1. Granted, against a banged-up Eagles offensive line, but Chase Young looks like one of these superstar young pass rushers in this league, one of the many. And then Montez Sweat trying to get to that level. He dealt with a lot of injuries last year, as Washington fans repeatedly tell me. I was not a huge Sweat fan coming out, but I did like the landing spot, and now especially getting Ron Rivera to work with a lot of talent around him. He's going to consistently see single teams with his athleticism and length. He should be able to win like he did this week, and he executed. So big week for Montez Sweat, Chase Young, this pass rush developing very quickly in front of our eyes, as well as the secondary. This was the big question for this team, right? They signed Kendall Fuller, but what else do they have? They brought in Ronald Darby. I don't believe he played in this game, but Jimmy Moreland, Fabian Moreau, two young corners that I like that have not really emerged yet. Two huge picks in this game. These two guys are the reason this team won this game, in my opinion. Those were not back-breaking, but pivotal interceptions for the football team. And both these guys, a lot of athletic potential, who could certainly emerge as starting corners for this team. Next up, we're on to Cincinnati, where the Chargers were visiting. And there is your man, Forrest Lamp, a draft Twitter favorite several years ago, has not been able to stay healthy, has not produced, but a hell of a week coming out looking like college Forrest Lamp. So on his way up, hopefully. And then we have Sam Tevy as well, making a big impact at left tackle. This Chargers offensive line, Dan Feeney as well, getting the start at center for Mike Pouncey or Marquise Pouncey, whichever one it is. The offensive line as a whole looking better. Pavin Lane's in the run game that had a pretty good week here for the Chargers, and Josh Kelly a part of that as well. Running back out of UCLA, I wasn't particularly high on. I thought he was kind of just a guy, but he was making guys miss, creating yards out of nothing. Really good to see. Some people liked him a lot more than me. So for whatever it's worth, Josh Kelly looking like a potential impact running back. And then even Gabe Neighbors. Only 6 snaps, but at fullback. You don't get too many opportunities, but was paving some ways for this run-heavy Chargers offense. But a receiver is going to go up with Mike Williams. Just a badass. Was supposed to miss the first few weeks of the season. Sure enough, he plays and dominates. Was a few inches short, a couple of plays from putting up even more numbers. But just an impressive performance. He clearly seems to be the guy that Tyrod wants to go to as well, as kind of that jump ball guy. Could he be the focal point of this passing game with Keenan Allen kind of getting pushed to the wayside? You know, Rivers and Allen kind of had a special chemistry. I think Williams is more of that go-get-it type for Tyrod Taylor. So really impressed from what I saw with Mike Williams, and certainly impressed with his toughness to do this through a pretty serious injury. And then Michael Davis, this Chargers team likes him a lot at that cornerback position, and he stepped up. The plan was to have Derwin and King at safety, and then have Chris Harris in the slot, and obviously Casey Hayward at corner, and then Michael Davis at corner. And Derwin James getting injured didn't change those plans. They very well could have mixed it up, but they stuck with Michael Davis at outside corner, and he played well in this game. So he's going to go up. Certainly a starting caliber, tough zone starting caliber zone corner. I feel like I screwed that up. Maybe I didn't. I'm just in my mind. But then Jerry Tillery, a big week. This dude was a bust in his first season. First round pick out of Notre Dame last year, did absolutely nothing. they had a new role for him this year. He played some of that bigger body defensive end, and he was getting in there in the pass rush and starting to make a name for himself. So good for Jerry Tillery. A lot of athletic potential and starting to put it together on the field, which is good to see. And then just a note, Virgil Green, who's kind of this blocking freak at tight end, seems at home in this run-heavy offense for the Chargers. And then for the Bengals, this is going to include the Week 2 game where Joe Burrow stole the show despite his team letting him down. Couldn't tackle anyone on defense and couldn't block anyone, but Joe Burrow still... good quarterbacks win, great quarterbacks cover, right? Joe Burrow 2-0 against the spread despite playing for a terrible Bengals team that has talent that just doesn't seem to have the fundamentals down at this point. But, man, watch my Joe Burrow film room from yesterday. It really started to click in the second half once they kind of let him loose a little bit, and then they had to let him loose early against the Browns, and he did not disappoint. This guy is a future star. I have no problem ranking him real close to those top 10 quarterbacks. A rare rookie where he steps in and is just processing at such a high level for a rookie. I am just blown away from what we're seeing from Joe Burrow. This is the highest level rookie quarterback play from a mental perspective that I've ever seen. Just the way he's processing, getting rid of the ball, seeing defenses, it's impressive stuff. And then you factor in what he's doing to elude unbearable pressure. This team needed to draft offensive linemen in the draft. They didn't need to draft T. Higgins. They didn't need to draft Logan Wilson, who's going down this week. They needed linemen, and they blew it. They need to get on that ASAP. Luckily, however, Jonah Williams does look good. He's effectively a first-round pick this year. After being the 11th overall pick in 2018, he missed the season. Really good pass blocking tackle, looking good in run game as well. And then we have Logan Wilson, who I mentioned. I liked him coming out of Wyoming, and I didn't hate this pick. I still thought it should have been an offensive lineman like a Matt Pert, Matt Hennessy, etc. But he just looks lost out there. I think he'll get there, but just does not look like an impact rookie at linebacker in the slightest. The Browns just ran right past him all day. He couldn't dissect a run to save his life. And then just a couple notes. John Ross basically looks like Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, he can get open, but he just can't seem to secure a catch. And then Jesse Bates. I love this man. He's had a couple good weeks now, especially week 1. But his overall is not going to change. But that hit power is going up. You better believe it. He lit up Mike Williams. Should not have been a penalty. Showing some power that I didn't think Jesse Bates had at that free safety spot. So then we have the Bucs-Saints game. Not going to overreact too much to the Saints here. I thought Brady actually looked pretty good, all things considered. Alex Kappa is going to go up. He was impressive as a pass protector, a young developing guard, the weakest link on that line that they need to continue to step up. We talked about Gronk. And then O.J. Howard was the tight end of choice for this Bucs offense, and it makes sense. I mean, he can get open in the short to intermediate game, and create after the catch. That's everything Tom Brady wants, and it showed in week 1. And he was blocking better this week too. So I think O.J. Howard is starting to build a potential star season here for the Bucs already in week 1. And then just a note, Antoine Winfield was great in his rookie debut. I have him rated very respectively already. Let's continue to see him play well. And then for the Saints, just Janoris Jenkins going to go up. Again, I don't want to overreact to week 1. Drew Brees did not look good to me. But the rest of this offense kind of is what it was what it is. And as for the defense as well, I thought the defense played great. The guys that are rated appropriately stepped up. The one guy being Janoris Jenkins, who had the pick 6. Getting some respect here. He played really well for the Saints. When they brought him in from the Giants, he seems motivated and active and healthy. So good for Janoris Jenkins. Big play there to help them win this game. And then Malcolm Roach, keep an eye on him. Another guy, I have him rated very well already as a 66 for an undrafted defensive tackle, but a player that I really liked coming out of Texas. I had a 4th-round grade on him. He had 2 big defensive stops in this game. However, did not grade well, which indicates the PFF at least thinks he did not play well in between those 2 splash plays, but he did make those splash plays. So let's see how he develops moving forward. Then we have the Cardinals at 49ers game. This was a surprising outcome, but strangely went how I expected. The Cardinals kind of stuck with this short passing game in light of having that elite Niners pass rush in front of them. It's a matchup we saw a couple times last year, and it looked very similar to those games. The Cardinals came out on top in this one. I'm excited to see Kyler continue to develop with DeAndre Hopkins. It looked good in week 1 here. I'm excited to see them, maybe not even this week against Washington, which is a very similar matchup, but I want to see them against teams that aren't going to get at Kyler so quickly. I think Cliff really wanted to keep that short passing game going here. So not a lot of movement here, all things considered. But Angelo Blackson looks like a great pickup. This is the team that spotted Zach Kerr on the interior defensive line last year, who's now in Carolina, was a star run defender last year. They seem to have done the same thing with Angelo Blackson, who they pick up from Houston, who had a great game helping defend this 49ers run game. Just a couple notes here on defense. Byron Murphy had a great game. He's rated appropriately as a young player that I really like. Another good week, and he should go up. And then Isaiah Simmons, not a good debut. Did not look comfortable at the linebacker position. Got just embarrassed trying to defend an angle route from Raheem Mostert out of the backfield. Gave up a huge touchdown. You got to keep in mind, guys, Isaiah Simmons did not play linebacker in college. It is going to be a transition for this guy if that's the role he's going to play. I like Isaiah Simmons as sort of a slot corner, Derwin James type of strong safety role. I'm not completely sold on him as a middle linebacker. We're not going to move him yet. It's just 1 week, but not a great start for the highly regarded prospect coming out of Clemson. And then for the Niners, lots of injuries. Tough to have any strong takeaways here. You don't want to overreact. But man, did Trent Williams look good. Oh my God. I mean, he could be an upgrade at left tackle, seriously, to what they had in Joe Staley, especially in the run game. I mean, Trent Williams is the perfect outside zone blocker. I mean, he is one of the best blockers in space that I've ever seen, and it showed this week. He was good in pass protection as well, so just a no-brainer acquisition for the Niners. I don't know how someone else didn't think of this move, but good on the Niners for doing it. And then Hronis Grasu, a mobile, undersized center that's kind of bounced around the league. He has found a home, it seems, in this mobile offensive line scheme and played well, stepping up for some injuries at center there. Decent game in pass protection, so nothing crazy, but making a note there. Moving him up to more of a potential, capable center there. And then Dre Greenlaw, who was awesome down the stretch last season, is one more good game away, I think, from passing, believe it or not, Quan Alexander on this the ratings for the linebackers for this really good unit here. But that's more of a compliment to Dre Greenlaw than it is an insult to Quan Alexander, who just hasn't really impressed in his time in San Francisco after getting that big contract. Jimmy G was not great. Tough week with those receivers out, but if he continues to play like this, he will go down. Javon Kinlaw was great in his rookie debut, and Solomon Thomas was just terrible. I didn't feel like lowering him this week because I just feel bad for him, but man, he was just nowhere to be found for this defense. Then we have the Rams game. Only one player moving for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, another week where I don't want to totally overreact, and I think the guys that I expected to play well kind of played like I expected. But Zeke looked really good here, and I'm hard on Zeke. I think he's overrated, but I will give him credit when he looks like a superstar running back, and he did this week. So I want to give him some respect. Good for Zeke. A really impressive touchdown run in this game. I think it was actually a catch, making like the entire Rams defense miss. More bad defense than it was me complimenting Zeke on that one, but regardless, Zeke made the play. Connor Williams got obliterated, but it was against Aaron Donald, so not going to go down, but in the notes. And then Aldon Smith looked good. I actually had him rated as a 74. Kind of played well. I presumed he would. If he continues to play like that, however, he will, of course, go up. And then for the Rams side of the ball, the entire offensive line going up. I don't think I need to explain this. Just watch the game. They were dominant. This was huge for the Rams. I mean, this was the big question for them, right? Center, right guard, Corbett and Blythe played great. Now, Noteboom was fine at guard. I'm not fully convinced on him yet, but as a weakest link, he held his own, and then the tackles played outstanding. So all-around movement for the Rams, who had definitely a statement win this week against the Cowboys. Malcolm Brown taking advantage of some of that good blocking, but a good week nonetheless. He looked like the clear-cut best runner for this team. I was not as impressed by Cam Akers. I thought Brown showed the better vision and power and toughness. And then Darius Williams is going to go up, a 5'9" corner playing outside. That's a guy that made a lot of plays in the preseason last year and then stepped up late as the season went on. His climb continues here, and he looks like he's going to be a player for a emerging Rams secondary with some under-the-radar players. And then Kenny Young stepped up. This is the other UCLA linebacker I mentioned we were going to talk about. I mean, if you ever have a doubt about where you should invest in that linebacker position, it seems UCLA is the way to go. These guys just always seem to develop and become quality players in the NFL. And Kenny Young, a good start here, kicking off his 2020 campaign. All right, home stretch here. If you haven't hit that like button now, I don't know what you're doing. Please do hit that down below. Let's finish strong here. Steelers at Giants. We're going to give Clay's Chaypool a +1 here, up to a 70. What hell of a catch down the sideline. Showing some of that outside vertical potential. I thought he would be used a little more as a slot tight end type here. Nope, they flex him out wide, and he makes a hell of a play in the deep passing game. That's certainly intriguing with his physical profile and speed. Matt Filer, I was confused why they're playing him at guard after he was so good at tackle last year. I feel like they're missing out on value there, but he's a hell of a guard. It turns out, just like he is a hell of a tackle. A big week against a good interior defensive line for that Giants team. And Zach Banner is the one that got the start at right tackle. Now he's huge. He's 6'8", 360 pounds, about as big as it gets for tackle. And he's no Mekhi Becton. Like, there's a reason we were freaking out about Mekhi Becton, because most guys that look like him, like Zach Banner, have really stiff feet and are poor pass protectors. And that's kind of what we saw here against not even a good pass rush for the Giants. But as a run blocker, he shows up. He just uses that body, gets in guys' way. He's a high character guy. He's a tough player. He does what he can, and maybe he can work on that pass protection technique. But for now, he's going to go up as a really good run blocker. Then for the defense, TJ Watt going to get into the 90s here. What a pick that was. Like, that's just terrifying, knowing that at any moment, if you're trying to throw a 5-yard slant, TJ Watt could be there to pick the thing off after he's getting blocked. Like, just ridiculous. He produced as a pass rusher this week. What a stud TJ Watt is, emerging as, if he hadn't already emerged, as one of the premier top 5 defensive players in this league. Tyson Alualu stepping up yet again for this Pittsburgh team as a run-defending, early-down defensive tackle. And then Alex Highsmith, a mid-round investment for this team, a freak athlete coming out of Charlotte. I was really excited to see what he would look like as the rotational third rusher that this team kind of needs, and a potential developmental replacement for Bud Dupree, who I don't think is the long-term answer here. He looked good, just 10 snaps, but did get after the quarterback and is going to get a little bit of respect here. A lot of people like Alex Highsmith. And then some guys potentially on the rise if they play well. Again, Deontay Johnson, just not quite enough to boost him up. And then we have a slot corner here, Sutton. Doesn't get a ton of time because Mike Hilton is there in the slot, but when he comes in those true dime looks, he is a really good slot corner. And I think he has starting potential in that position for someone else down the road. But for now, he's just the fourth corner here. And then Devin Bush, a good debut, could be a good week away from a boost there. Then for the Giants, Daniel Jones, I was hard on him, and I will continue to be hard on him for being a turnover machine, and I think it's going to continue to hurt this team's ability to win games. That said, for 95% of the time, he was seeing the field very well. He was processing defenses. I still think he is completely oblivious to the pass rush for better or worse, and oftentimes that looks pretty good because it doesn't faze him. But then he gets tracked down from behind and gets strip sacked or gets hit while he throws and throws a pick in the red zone. That's who Daniel Jones is going to be, but those positives do also need to be highlighted. He's pretty accurate. He sees defenses pretty well. He gets the ball out quickly, a decent amount of time, and he makes some plays. So think Jameis Winston, like, he can play. It's just how much do you want him to be your quarterback, and can he weed those things out and develop his pocket presence? I have my doubts, but he is going to go up. Then we have Caden Smith getting some opportunities at tight end. He is getting pretty rave reviews out of that Giants camp, and he showed it in week 1, especially as a run blocker, something I didn't know he had in him coming out of Stanford. Kind of a lighter receiving threat, but good to see him getting involved and playing physical. Darius Slayton continues his rise as this kind of, I don't want to say one-trick pony, but two-trick pony, slants and deep balls, but those are two pretty good tricks that you can get from your number 3 receiver in Darius Slayton. He roasted, I think it was Steven Nelson, for a deep touchdown in this game. Seems he's got one of those in him every week. He's a hell of a football player and continues to rise. What a find Darius Slayton was by Dave Gettleman in the 5th round of last year's draft. And then Lorenzo Carter, the athletic, lengthy Georgia edge player, continues to come into his own as an NFL player. Was incredibly raw coming out of Georgia. It's why he fell into the 3rd round, but I think he's found the perfect scheme fit here in this Belichick 3-4 defense. Of course, being installed here under Joe Judge. But a guy that does have those rare athletic traits to drop into coverage, and he has that length, and when used correctly, he had 12 coverage snaps in this game and played very well in those reps, just kind of disguising looks and breaking things up in the short game. Lorenzo Carter is going to be an asset in that way, and he continues to develop as a pass rusher. So he is kind of a lone bright spot and potential star for this Giants defense that really needs those types of players. The offensive line for the Giants got just demolished by this nasty Steelers pass rush, which was to be expected. And then Blake Martinez, a lot of people wondering what I thought of his game. He did grade out incredibly well, and I will admit, he was flying to the ball a lot more than I expected him to do. Still showed those lousy movement skills in space and coverage, and was a missed Big Ben floater to the running back away from getting exposed on one of them. I'm not prepared to move him up after one game against some really poor athletes at running back. We'll see. I will acknowledge he played well, but I'm not ready to move him up. I still think he's one of the worst starters in the NFL until he continues to prove that wrong. Then we have the final game here, Tennessee at Denver. Corey Davis going up +1. He continues to fluctuate around the 78, 79 mark. Does he want to step up? That 5th-year option got denied here, but he did in this game. Really helped his team win. 100 receiving yards, some tough catches, no drops, running those good routes in the middle of the field. So a really high potential receiver that just is kind of waiting to show us that consistency. Ben Jones continues his climb as one of the premier centers in this league, a well-balanced beast for this Titans team, an underrated reason for this team's success last year. And then Mecole Pruitt, the 2nd tight end here next to Jonnu Smith, undersized guy, 6'2", 245, but using that leverage and explosiveness to refine his game as a run blocker, which is most impressive here. So going to get some respect there. And then some notes here. Jonnu Smith is one of my favorite emerging players in the league. He's rated appropriately, but he is under the radar, one of the scariest players in the NFL with the ball in his hands. If they could find a way to get him the ball more, I think they would greatly benefit from doing so. And then Derrick Henry looked lousy in this game. If you told me that was Bo Scarborough for the Titans, I would have believed you. He just looked like a plodding power back. I know he's better than that. I know he will have games that was better than that. He's not going down for that reason. But man, I don't know how you justify paying this guy. He just is a complete product of the blocking in front of him. And Denver did a good job bottling him up in this game. And a big reason for that is the linebacker going up, but let's talk about that later. Let's do the offense first, as we've been doing. Garrett Bowles, Dalton Risner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Elijah Wilkinson, the starting offensive line for the Denver Broncos, everyone looking pretty good. And all of these guys are pretty different players. Garrett Bowles, Denver fans, I'm sure you would hope that Garrett Bowles can develop, but I know that Denver fans are not big Garrett Bowles fans. A big problem for Bowles is that he has reportedly started every season out of shape. And the report this year was that that was not the case, that he showed up to camp looking to prove people wrong, in shape, and that showed up. He has been very good in December for like the last 3 years. So if you're getting December Garrett Bowles for the whole season, that's a damn good tackle. So hopefully that's the case here for Garrett Bowles. Dalton Risner continues to climb a little bit here. He's, to me, a kind of a high floor, low ceiling type of guard who lacks some of those athletic traits, but that's, you might not ever be Quentin Nelson, but you can be a really high caliber guard if you continue to grow mentally and technically with some lacking physical traits. And then we have Lloyd Cushenberry, more of a traitsy center coming out of LSU, looked good in his debut. I was not a big Lloyd Cushenberry fan. I was almost the only one that was not, and I do have to take those things into account. I had him as a 66 rookie, and he seems to be a guy that's going to prove me wrong. He looked pretty good against a good Titans front. We'll see how he continues to grow. Then Elijah Wilkinson stepped up at right tackle. I think they would like to get DeMar Dotson going there, who they signed. Maybe he wasn't ready to play in the offense, but Wilkinson has always been a swingman for this team, and he has been able to step up. I think they're right in saying that he's not the long-term starter, but it's good to see that he can play in a pinch, which he did in this game and played valiantly at right tackle. And that allowed for Drew Lock to make some decent plays here. Lock didn't blow me away, but he didn't really disappoint me either. He missed some throws, which is probably the number one concern here. He's going to get Cortland Sutton back and go against defenses that aren't as nasty as this Titans defense. Where I was impressed by Drew Lock was the velocity on his ball and the movement that he had. He looked really athletic, so I'm fairly optimistic about Drew Lock, but there was some flaws in his game as well. And then we mentioned Alexander Johnson, a hell of a game this week. A big reason that they were able to contain Derrick Henry. You have a beastly middle linebacker here in Alexander Johnson, showing that sideline-to-sideline speed, helping blow up blocks, push to the backfield, and able to wrap up Derrick Henry. So a big week for Johnson, who was good in coverage as well, was a rising superstar in last year's Studs and Duds series. Completely came out of nowhere. Just a off-the-street pickup. A 28-year-old rookie out of Tennessee, but has all of the traits and seems to be a guy that is just so thrilled to have gotten this opportunity at his age after having a troubled career, and is just making the absolute most of it, which you love to see. So all of the credit in the world for Alexander Johnson, who continues to climb into potentially like top 10 linebacker in the NFL discussions, should be starting to emerge here pretty soon if he keeps playing like this. And then you have Michael Ojemudia, excellent debut out of Iowa. He's a guy that is a perfect fit here. Kind of similar to Jalen Johnson. Both these guys were similar prospects coming out. Johnson, a better athlete, but Ojemudia with those zone instincts, played great here, plug-and-play rookie. They had a ton of confidence in him. They let, can't think of his name, but the Boston College kid go, and we're really banking on Ojemudia to play well here, and he did. Then on the edge, really good to see Jeremiah Atuachu step up, a veteran pass rusher that's had some starting opportunities in years past. He's going to get a good opportunity here. He's been in place here in Denver for a year. He knows the scheme. But obviously with Von Miller going out, you need that speed rush to supplement that loss. And Atuachu can't be Von Miller. But if he can do this and get you, I don't even think he'll get you 5 pressures a week, but if he can get you 3 big pressures on big passing downs, that can help supplement the loss of Von Miller and get this defense back on track. So that was big to see him step up. I think that's going to be a big morality boost for this defense. And then another guy, Ising Bassi, stepped up in the slot as Bryce Callahan actually played outside corner for this defense, which was interesting to see. But Bassey, kind of a Senior Bowl star, along with Lloyd Cushenberry, stepping up and not getting lost in the slot as an undrafted rookie. So cool to see that for the Wake Forest rookie, who is basically designed to play in the slot in the NFL at 5'9", with really quick traits and an instinctive run defender. So wow, we made it through. Thank you for watching. I'm just going to get out of here. My throat is killing me, but we got through week 1 studs and duds. If you enjoyed, guys, please do hit that like button. If you really enjoyed and learned a thing or two, please do consider a donation to my Patreon, Venmo, PayPal. If you enjoy the roster that stems from these deep dives, the updates, all that, this is a hefty project here. So I appreciate any contributions. Your support is really the reason that I'm able to do this. So cheers, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Enjoy your weekend. Week 2, baby. Let's get it. Peace out.